Ladies and gentlemen, we have an update on Josh Jacobs' situation with the Raiders. He may not have a situation at all. He may not even play for the Raiders this year. We are going to hear from Tom Pelliserro in a second, confirming what we already know, which is that this is heading towards a disaster. So we have Bleacher Report also reporting on what NFL Insider Tom Pelliserro said today, which is the fact that Josh Jacobs could hold out of training camp and also not even play week 1. Now let's dig into what exactly is happening right now. Josh Jacobs has been very vocal on social media about his situation with the Raiders, and because he has not officially signed the franchise tag, himself along with Giants running back Saquon Barkley have not signed their franchise tags, meaning they are not eligible to be fined. So the fact that they missed out on mandatory minicamp, the fact that they may miss out on training camp, will miss out on training camp basically, the fact that they may do all that, they're not going to incur any fines and they're going to be perfectly fine with missing practice. And it just doesn't stop. Even today on social media, Jacobs is just non-stop showing why he should be paid by the Raiders. And look, we had a video just the other day where we showed some messages by Josh Jacobs having an exchange with another fan, and it seems like the Raiders have not offered him a long-term contract. There is no proof, no validity to the claim that the Raiders have offered Josh Jacobs a multi-year contract. And we have him here showing that before turning 25, he is up there in yards with Marshall Faulk, Walter Payton, Edgerrin James, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, the best of them. Josh Jacobs has been very productive so far. And we know on my birthday, Josh Jacobs said bad business, and he's been showing all of these emojis reacting to the fact that he is underpaid, running backs are underpaid, and the Raiders expect him to just play on the franchise tag, which will be $10 million. Hey, yeah, that's nice for 1 year, but there's no guarantee he's gonna make any money the year after, and he could be totally let go after 1 year and have no future and no money to his name. So Jacobs making this post June 10th, 10 days before June 20th, when he said bad business, saying sometimes it's not about you, we got to do it for the ones after us. So all of this in the background, coupled with the fact that around the Pro Bowl, he was talking about how he doesn't want to disrespect himself, and if you want him to be the hero, you're gonna have to pay him like the hero. And it looks like ever since the Jimmy Garoppolo signing, the fact that the Raiders did not land on the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, seems like Jacobs is not really interested in playing on the tag this year, and now it looks like the guy is not gonna budge. He's not gonna budge at all.
Franchise tag guys, the one that nobody's talking about,
Josh Jacobs,
is Josh Jacobs, the reigning NFL rushing champion.
And that is the thing. We know how this all started. Josh Jacobs had his 5th-year option declined, and he looked very pissed when he was asked about it by Vincent Bosignor. Didn't look too happy.
The 5th-year option wasn't picked up. Does that play into things for you? And was it disappointment, or where are you?
I really don't too much think about it, honestly. I'm a firm believer in the work that you put in is going to pay out for itself. I had to be here either way. This is where I want to be. So I didn't have no problem with it. I just give me more of a reason to come in every day.
And then he went and balled out, became the #1 running back in the NFL after already being productive 3 years prior. Looks like the Raiders are going to have to pay this guy, or he's not going to show up, according to what Tom Pelliserro says next.
At this point, if there's not a long-term deal, I don't anticipate Josh Jacobs being there at the start of training camp, and I don't know that he shows up week 1.
He does not anticipate him being there at the start of training camp if there's not a long-term deal, and I don't anticipate him showing up week 1. So the Raiders are not going to give him a long-term deal. They would have already done it by now. We had the video we did the other day where he had that exchange with that other fan on Instagram. That fan was claiming that Jacobs had received some type of offer for the Raiders, and Jacobs got upset with him, and it seems like Jacobs was implying the Raiders haven't offered him crap. They haven't offered him crap besides the franchise tag, and that makes sense because Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels' camp believes that franchise tag is a lot of money, and they believe that Jacobs should play on it. They want him to just play on that 1-year franchise tag. They do not want him to have a long-term contract, and so they're going to drag this out all the way to July 17th when Jacobs has to pretty much play on the tag unless he holds out. And if he does what Tom Pelliserro is saying here, where he doesn't attend training camp, he doesn't show up week 1, after he said all these comments about how he has to do it for the ones after us, it looks like this is going to be Le'Veon Bell 2.0, and it looks like Jimmy Garoppolo was not enough for Josh Jacobs to believe that he's not going to have to be the hero.
You know, with Saquon Barkley, he's also mused about potentially sitting out. That one's a little harder to believe, in part because there have been negotiations. They've talked about different contract structures.
So that's interesting. Saquon Barkley and the Giants is different than the Raiders and Jacobs, because at least with Barkley and the Giants, they have had talks. They have had long-term talks. Remember, there are reports that the Raiders, and this seems clear based on everything that Jacobs has been saying lately, the Raiders and Jacobs are not even negotiating. They're not even talking about some new long-term contract. And this is kind of BS by the Raiders, because they're trying to act like Josh Jacobs is the future of our team. You've had Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels say, we want to build around him.
Josh embodies a lot of the qualities that we want in to build this foundation on.
Clearly, they're not valuing him as a leader if they're not willing to even negotiate and talk a long-term contract. And so Josh Jacobs is represented by Black Label Sports Group right here. It's one of the best agents around. So they seem like they have his back, and they're willing to battle here. They're willing to say, hey, well, this guy should get paid. If the Raiders really value him, if the Raiders really feel like they need him this year, they should pay him. And if the Raiders are actually competing for a championship, if you are actually trying to win a championship within this window we know we have Devontae Adams locked in for 2 years, Crosby locked in for about 3 years, right? If we're really trying to win a championship, Jimmy Garoppolo locked in for at least 1 year for sure if he passes the physical. If we're really going all in, then yes, you should pay Josh Jacobs at least a 2-year guarantee, maybe a little bit spilling over to a 3, but you could at least give him that if you're really trying to go off. And look, this is the type of guy where we've seen him go off when he's had to prove it, when he's been on a prove it year with not much security. You know he's going to go off once he gets paid. But if the Raiders are doing what we all think they're doing, if they're just rebuilding, if they realize they kind of messed up last year and shouldn't have given out these contracts to Waller, Adams and company, and Derek Carr, and now they're scaling back and perhaps tanking, who knows if they're tanking, but if they're doing that, then maybe they would see no need to give Josh Jacobs a long-term contract, and it could end in them just straight up rescinding the tag from Josh Jacobs, allowing him to test free agency, or maybe they go through with the tag and trade him to somewhere that he would like to go. I don't know how many teams are willing to pay big money for a running back right now, but somebody like Josh Jacobs, if there's one running back who they would pay big money for, it's going to be Josh Jacobs or Saquon Barkley, one of those two running backs. But this is going to be really interesting to see what the Raiders do here, because it seems like they only need to offer a 2-year guarantee. That usually is the issue when it comes down to these contracts that are non-quarterback contracts, skill position contract. And what the Raiders decide to do in the coming weeks will give us deep insight on how they feel about this upcoming season and what they expect to do in this upcoming season. But it looks like it's headed towards the end, and it sucks because my wife has a Josh Jacobs jersey and I really want this guy to be a part of the Raiders for a long time, but it does look like it's done. In my opinion, it's done. The Raiders don't want to offer him a long-term deal. He doesn't want to play on the tag, and if he's forced to play on the tag, he's planning on just holding out, according to Tom Pelliserro. So really, we're just waiting. We're just waiting to watch this all happen, because both of these sides do not look like they're going to budge, and it doesn't look like, and if that is the case, then it looks like it's over between Josh Jacobs and the Raiders. Let me know how you think the Raiders should handle this situation right now. My name is WiFiWillie. Check out some of these other videos on this channel you may have missed. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.